This is Undaunted.Life, a man's podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Thompson. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the Forging Table. The mission of Undaunted.Life is equipping men to push back darkness with content that forges spiritual, mental, and physical resilience. At the Forging Table, you'll see a group of regular guys forging spiritual resilience by digging into God's Word, and we're welcoming all of you to come along on that journey with us. That's Ryan, that's Russ, and Zach. For those of you keeping score at home, this is, again, another week where he cannot get the thing to work, but that's not really the timer, that is. So, Ryan, thank you for making sure we got the timer going. But Zach, that's not even what I'm really worried about here. Because I think everyone's heard the expression at some point or another, you think you know a guy, right? So you think you know a guy, and then they do something, right? Or you find out something about this person, you're like, I didn't know them at all. Well, here recently, Ryan and I had our minds blown because we were on some group text or whatever, and it came up that the way that everyone in your life has spelled your first name this whole time that we've known you has been wrong. So we've been spelling your name, Zach, Z-A-C-H.
Why do we spell it that way?
Because Zachary is his full name, right?
Z-A-C-H-A-R-Y.
Yeah, and that would make no sense to have Z-A-C-K. But then all of a sudden, there's something that comes up, and you type your name.
Address.
Yeah, your email address, and it was Zach with a K, and I was like, with a K. And you're like, well, no, that's how it's spelled. And so I don't know what kind of game you're pulling here. Yeah. I don't know what exactly you're doing. Even Russ is mad, and he's secondhand to this story.
I just wrote Zach down in my Bible when we started.
And so how'd you spell it? How'd you spell it?
C-H.
Yeah, okay, there you go. So you think you know a guy, Zach. What other things are you not telling us at this point, right? Because you can just change the spelling of your name years into a relationship. What's that about? If that's your real name.
On January 28th, 1986, the Challenger spaceship exploded. And in Midland, Texas, I popped out. And my mom set this situation up. So I'm Zachary with a C-H-A-R-Y, and I'm Z-A-C-K ever since then. You're just going to have to deal with it.
I got to tell you, I don't know what it is with white people that are setting themselves up with doing this, because we live in one of those towns where apparently you take normal names like Jackson. Wonderful, strong name. J-A-C-K-S-O-N. No, apparently not. It's J-A-X-X-X-X-X-O-N. And that's how we're going to spell it. Why? Because we're unique. Because some dork on the internet, spelled their kid's name wrong. And so it's like, okay, we got to make sure that on the first day of class, no one's ever going to be able to pronounce your kid's name right. They're never going to spell it right when they write it on a coffee cup. I just don't understand white people. Gotta be honest.
Weird thing is you added an extra syllable in the word spelled.
See, I'm part of the problem. I am part of this problem, and I'm also going to be part of the solution. I'll tell you that right now.
Okay.
But any other secrets that you got that you would like to reveal for the first time? No one's listening.
Nothing.
No, nothing?
Open book.
Nothing juicy?
Nope.
I got a confession.
Oh, God. Okay, here we go.
My middle name's Ryan. My first name's William.
I think we all knew that.
Did you?
Yeah.
Good.
That was like a big weight that you were taking off your shoulders that we're all like, yeah, we know. Everybody knows. Nobody cares.
Cool.
Okay? Unless you want to start calling you Billy.
Nah. What does your mom call you?
Yeah. When did you first go with Ryan?
When did I first know it was William?
No, when did you first start going with Ryan versus
I've
Bill
always grown
William?
up with Ryan.
Will.
What happened to me in third grade, we moved to Altoona, Iowa, and the teacher was doing roll call, and she was calling everybody's name, and she goes, William Horn. And I look around, like, there's somebody here with my same last name as me.
Way.
Oh, you didn't know?
I didn't know my first name was William.
Oh.
And so I'm like, and so they're like, she's like marked absent. And then like 20 minutes in the class, she's like, who are you? And I was like, I'm Ryan. And she's like, what's your last name? I was like, Horn.
What did you think your middle name was?
I didn't know. I didn't think I had a middle name.
He had a middle name?
Yeah. So I was like, snap. So I went home. I was like, Mom, Dad, is my first name William? And they're like, yeah. Like, this is the sad part is like, I had this thing in my drawer that said William, and it had like what the name meant and everything. And I always thought it was my dad's because my dad's name's Bill. And so, no, somebody got that from me when I was a baby because my first name is William. And I was like, I couldn't put two to two together because I'm an idiot, And
you're a kid.
I was a third grader, but I wasn't the smartest third grader.
Yeah.
So my kids will tell you that. So.
Well, that's actually another problem with white people is they will name a kid and then call them by their middle name from the beginning. It's like, just call them that. So like when we named our first son James, which again, super unique name, right? It's only the number one most popular boy's name of the last
unique?
100. Kyle. His middle name's
I
Kyle.
thought it was James Unique.
Okay. This freaking guy.
But a lot of people do that with family names.
But that's the thing is like his first name is James, and then like it was kind of rude, but like Kelsey's grandma, my wife's grandma, was like, "Oh, Jimmy." I'm like, "No." If we wanted to name him, if we wanted to call him Jimmy, you know what we would have done? We would have just named him Jimmy. But so like, so Kyle, that was the 5th name down the list of what my family wanted to name me. Number 1, my mom wanted to name me Bartholomew.
Yes, sir.
And then, but she's like, nobody would ever call him that. He would just be Bart. And I was like, okay, that's problematic. And
Bart
then
the
it was,
fart.
and then it was Desivy Lucas.
Desivy?
Desivy.
Those seem like they're so far
Wait
off
a
the
minute.
spectrum. Kyle,
And it's
Bartholomew, Desimy.
Desivy Lucas. It's a hyphenated first name.
Did she want you to be a rapper?
There's that. No, that's not a rapper's name. Like, okay, so there was what? Bartholomew,
It
Desivy
qualifies.
Lucas. The third one was, what was the third one?
George.
No, it was Seamus.
Dude, that would have been awesome.
No,
Bring Seamus
it would have
back.
been awesome if I were a bus driver in Northern Ireland, not for a kid growing up in Oklahoma with Choctaw heritage.
You've got a red beard and your name is Seamus. That would have been freaking amazing.
On St. Patrick's Day, the rest of the days of the year would have not been so amazing
I
because
like
I already
Desivy.
have to walk around not being able to be out in the sun for more than 47 seconds at a time. And then my name's Seamus.
When I first
Seamus.
met you, I was like, oh, this guy's name's Kyle, whatever. Maybe we'll be friends. But if you were like, hey, man, I'm Seamus, I'm like, we're going to be friends.
that would have been the thing.
Seamus.
Why are you that against like being so uncertain if you want to be friends with a Kyle? Do you have too many Kyles in your life?
Yeah,
Dude,
well-
I have a brother-in-law named Kyle.
Everybody
Does
has
he
a
suck?
Kyle.
One was
Do you
enough.
hate him?
Yeah, and then if I ever was gonna like, if I had to like go in and like, you ever seen that movie? What's it? Stealing Harvard.
Yeah.
And Tom Green and Jason, Jason Lee or whatever. They go in there and they're about ready to rob this place, and they're like, "Hey, we can't use our real names." And the guy's like, "Call me Steve," and then like Tom Green's like, "Call me Kyle." And I was like, "Dude, if I ever gonna rob a place, my name's Kyle." So, but yeah, no, I don't have anything against Kyle, but I mean, Seamus is a pretty freaking BA.
Well,
name.
luckily that got axed by my dad as well. Fourth one down the line was Dylan, which, okay, cool name, but it was, my initials would have been DDT because in my family, the firstborn son takes the father's first name as his middle name. My dad is David, so I would have been, Dylan, David, Thompson, but DDT was not like a cool wrestling move at the time. It was like, this pesticide or whatever that killed a bunch of people.
like that.
And so
DD.
5th down the line was Kyle. I don't know who brought it up or whatever, so not a super common name. I hear it's possibly making a comeback, maybe. But, in our modern day and age, moms will start spelling it like Kyeiuel or
Yeah.
something like that.
Kyle,
like that.
Yeah, you sent something in the text
like
chain about that.
Yeah, that's what people are going to start, spelling it. And they're going to just, normal name just spelled stupid because that's apparently the age that we live in.
So I got a brother-in-law whose name's Kyle.
Okay.
And his last name, or not his last name, his middle name's Todd. But his parents liked Todd so much that they named his brother Todd. So,
But he kept his
middle name as Todd,
That
and then
gets
he has a brother named Todd.
Well, now, like, I just call you Todd now because I'm like, I don't really know
That's
how
what
to
most
trust
people
your
do.
first name
Yeah.
at this
Most
point.
emails are just Todd.
I'm like, hey, Todd.
Why do you say it like that? Why is it got to be like, hey, Todd?
Hey, Todd.
I was
don't know.
rusty, and then whenever I turned about 8, I decided that I had grown up and that people need to recognize that I'm just Russell.
Okay.
My grandfather was Russ, so I couldn't go the Russ route. Now my wife, she calls me Russ enough that now other people just call me Russ. But I
see. I
never
kinda
introduced
go back
myself
and
as
forth.
Russell. But most people call me Russ because most people hear her talking about me more than.
So you
Wait.
you prefer Russell?
Now I'm okay with both.
Your last
Russ,
name's Eustace. And so, like, I just, like, whenever I hear it, whenever somebody says Eustace,
Yeah.
I go back to my cousin Vinny and the 2 Utes. And so I'm just going to start calling
You
you
have
Utes.
so
I-
many
the
obscure
Utes.
movie references.
I'll
like,
take that.
and no one
I
in
am
the audience
I'm the
knows.
human IMDb.
See, I go from Russ, and like anytime I'm signing, like if I was going to rob something, I'd be Nick Papa Giorgio.
Nick Papa
'Cause
Giorgio.
Russ-
Oh, man.
Russ went to Nick Papa Giorgio.
Sounds like you should be
and-
on the Wolf of Wall Street.
Is it was that like 3 different movie references all in like
Dude,
14
I will
seconds?
movie reference this whole
Please
thing.
don't.
You want me
Vegas
to-
Please stop.
Vacation
It
was
won't end.
Russ,
No.
not Papa
yeah.
Giorgio.
Papa Giorgio. I
Yeah.
remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Vegas Vacation.
You know, you asked a question, so I guess I'll go back to 1986.
Oh, okay.
Did you know that when the Challenger exploded, there was chaos in the Midland Hospital? So I was switched at birth with a black family's child.
Nuh-uh.
You're lying.
100% true.
Zach,
So what was your name for
It
3
took him.
hours?
It took him like a few hours to sort it out.
was your name Longinus Todd
I have no idea.
for a little bit?
Dude, you should
My,
have kept
my
it.
dad, I was given to their family. Their child was given to my family, and my dad looked at mom and said, "Is there something you want to tell me?"
Dude, you're lying.
You gotta
This
be
is not
messing.
true.
You got to be
It's-
messing.
My mom hates when I tell this story, but it's 100% true. It took him a couple hours to figure it out. Like I've had chocolate milk early in life,
Oh,
and it's fine because I look exactly like my mom. So they sorted it, but
so
I
it
mean,
went enough to where you were like that. You weren't just in the
No,
what do they
man.
call that? Where the babies are just in that room.
No, I was
they
not-
put you
Nursery,
with
the
the
nursery.
family.
I was not in
you
the
were
plastic
nursing.
thing. I was like in the hands.
Did
So I'm told.
No, you literally nursed at the breast.
I don't know
your
for
non-
sure, but I was definitely switched, and they definitely took me to that family, and they took that child to my family, and the comment definitely occurred.
I'll tell you,
That's
I
true.
understand because babies in
That's
general, like newborn babies, just look alien.
Yeah,
They don't
right.
look like they should belong anywhere. They just look weird.
I'm with you.
Dude, I just want to see your dad's face.
like.
Did you? Was there any connection or any possibility to ever keep up or to find out who that other family
No
was?
clue.
Find out the
If
woman
we
who
could
nourished
get,
you.
gotta go
I
if
think
we
they
could
just
get
got
the
out
other kid here and get y'all together finally to be
Well,
like,
hey, Zach, last week you were like, okay, this year I got to make it happen. I have to golf. No, we're nixing that. We've got to find that kid, your brother.
What hospital?
Right?
Midland.
so
Still there.
Midland. If
Still there.
you were from Midland, what
You
year?
were born in
That's right.
1986.
Is there
January
only one?
28th, 1986,
January 28th.
the day the Challenger spaceship exploded.
if this
you are
story is
African-American.
familiar to you, but on the reverse,
Yeah.
please write in.
Info at Undaunted.Life. Info at Undaunted.Life immediately.
We need to
we
get
will
this
fly you
guy
first
back
class.
back with the woman who took care of him for
let's
3 or
go.
4
Yeah.
hours.
We need the baby and mom. We need,
Yeah.
if they're both alive and well, which we certainly pray they are. We need
Yeah.
them here, guys. So
Mom loves
guys
it.
on the internet, please make this happen.
Is your,
Here's a little bit of
is your
story.
mom nearby to where we could bring her in?
She's in Midland.
Okay.
Back
I mean,
to
I
Midland.
would
Maybe they
say
could
the
ride with
fathers.
She, that
too.
kid may still come around to see
maybe
her.
could still be there.
Yeah.
Don't know.
Well,
That's
there
the
are,
greatest story
there are
I've
ways
ever
that you
heard.
think an episode's going to go.
Yeah.
And then there's what we just sat through and
How-
experienced.
Yeah,
How do
buddy.
you not bring
almost-
that up to us
yeah.
when we asked?
Yeah, we almost
Yeah.
didn't get that.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah, I
just a
almost went
bunch.
right into the text because I was tired of the
Well, there you
IMDb
go.
references and
That's
things
my
like
contribution.
that. Goodness.
I'll stop.
You know how they have
gracious.
those games where it's like you get, what is it, 3 truths and a lie or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got it. It's like I was switched at birth. My eyes are 4 colors, and I have 2 dislocating knees.
Yeah. And the second two are 100% true.
And the lie is the eyes are 3 colors.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The first and second. Yeah. First and third. Yeah.
So typically it's pretty effective.
Jeez Louise. Okay.
So
Before
what
we,
would yours be?
what would mine what be?
If you I mean, how do you set that up for yourself? Like,
3 truths and a lie?
yeah, what do you do?
Gosh, now that I'm put on a spot.
It's 2 truths and a lie.
2 truths and a lie.
2 truths and a lie.
Yeah, 2 truths and a
Right.
lie.
Don't break your brain.
Man, I'm broken. Like you put me completely
Gotta
on
have
the
these
spot.
things
I was
ready.
sitting, yeah, I should have these things ready. Okay, let me hit y'all with one. I've studied abroad in Spain. I went on a trip where my bus driver's name in Ireland was Seamus. And I am equal parts Irish and Choctaw Indian.
I'm going to say the lie is the bus ride.
I want to say the
Okay.
study abroad in Spain.
So abroad in Spain?
I'm saying the third one is the lie.
I should have known if
parts.
you
Equal parts
study
Irish and Choctaw
abroad.
Indian?
I don't remember you doing that.
Yeah.
I changed mine.
I've never studied abroad in Spain. But when I was in Ireland, my bus driver's name was Seamus, and I'm equal parts Irish and Choctaw Indian.
Choctaw?
Choctaw Indian.
Are you registered and all that stuff?
Never really went and did made it all that serious and all that. But it is kind of a claim to fame because, when everyone was canceling everything, so we couldn't have Aunt Jemima on the thing, you couldn't have Redskins, you couldn't have all that kind of stuff. I'm like, I cannot wait until someone figures out the etymology of the word Oklahoma, because Oklahoma is a combination of 2 Choctaw words, which means red people. And so
Come
we're going to
on.
have to cancel the state of Oklahoma's name, y'all. So we need to start coming up with new names.
You've got a red beard. You're red, man.
I mean, there's
red
the
man.
red beard, and if I go out in the sun because I'm playing
Yeah,
the
you'd be red
Indian
too.
part, I would be red all over. Yep.
I didn't really know. Like my wife's family are Indians, and they just sort of gave up. I guess there were so many opportunities to put your name on the rolls that eventually, so many times in a row, nothing came of it. So families just stopped going, and then the real one happens, and then you've kind of passed your deadline, so you're not involved
Well,
anymore.
and the records can be a little bit of a mess because the way the story goes is back on my mom's side, there it would have been like my great grandma, grandpa, or whatever. So the woman was Choctaw, full blood, and the man was full blood Irish. So he came over here maybe because of the potato famine or something like that. I forget the story, but they fell in love, and obviously. At the time, the Choctaw Indians are like, absolutely not. Like, you're not intermarrying into this tribe. Same thing happened on the Irish side. And so they split off, and they had something like 25 kids. And so the family joke was that they made their own tribe since they were kicked out of both of theirs. And so, like, that's, kind of how that goes back on that side. And since you put me on the spot, Russ, 2 truths and a lie.
truths.
Let's go. And Ryan, it's
Should've
coming,
known.
I know
so
it's
you got to
coming.
get ready. So Russ, hit it. And we got 2 chapters of Genesis to hit as well, but don't worry, we'll get there.
Okay, I can whistle the Star Spangled Banner through my nose. I have been ran over while naked in a tanning bed. And I also have a brother that lives in Florida. I was like, I don't know.
watching eye movements here, the whole. Just trying to
I was
figure
watching
this out.
Yeah, I was like channeling rounders, right? And I was trying to get a tell. I feel like you tried to make the third one too casual, like you were just making it up. The second one, the way you said naked instead of naked, I feel like that was a tell.
That's just Oklahoma
That was
brother,
a little bit of a
baby.
tell.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say the first one's a lie.
The first one is a lie.
Well, you didn't even let them guess. Screw
Oh,
you guys,
well,
I win. Bam.
Yeah,
Through
you're
your
in
nose,
charge.
have you tried and failed?
How did you,
have
how
not?
did you get run
now-
over naked in a
I was
tanning bed? Like, were
I
you
was in high
outside?
school. I was in high school. I was getting ready to go on a men's fishing trip with my church, and the owner of the place where I got my haircut, Belinda Studio 62,
Shout out.
in Meeker.
Let's
don't,
go.
Don't think Belinda's there anymore, but if you are, check it out. We became friends, and I said something about tanning. She was like, you know what? You can tan here for free before your trip, all that. So I went in there. I would go after football practice, go tan. And one day there was a girl from my school that I had just gotten all greased up, laying in the bed, put the goggles on. And all of a sudden I hear an explosion, and I go flying through the room. I end up like a wet noodle up against a wall. And
like a
then-
sticky wet noodle.
yeah. And so then I look and I see light shining through, and I'm freaked out because there's a daycare across the street and this
Yeah.
after school, and so they're all outside, and I can hear kids and people yelling. And so I crawl underneath the tanning bed, which is now like completely bent. It probably saved my life. And I grab my jeans. I just come from the gym, and so I put these jeans on. They're the kind that you usually wear shorts on underneath. I put them on. They're hollering, they're banging that they're coming in. I'm coughing because of the drywall. She comes in. They get me out of there. I decide after sitting for a while, I want to see what happened. A girl from my school was putting on her shoe and hit the gas and drove right through the building and hit me. And then as I'm walking out to check things out, Belinda comes running after me holding my underwear in her hand. And she's running out. She's beet red. And she's running out and she's like, Russell, you forgot your underwear. And I'm like, I just got ran over. That's the last thing I'm worried about is my underwear.
Wow.
And so I even say that. I'm like, it's okay. I'm coming back in. She was like, no, you need your underwear.
Yeah, man, them are your chonies.
And I was like, what? And she goes, you need them on. And I reached back and I forgot there were these pair of jeans that my parents wouldn't let me wear because they basically had no back to them, holes everywhere. And I reach back and all I feel is skin. And I walk back in and I grab my underwear and I walk back in. And all these ladies, because this is after school, right? So there's a bunch of ladies around.
Greased up
They are
football player.
they are all laughing hilariously, beet red, and they are just giggling at the top of their lungs. I walk back, put my underwear on. And so then Belinda, her deal was, she said that if we did a parade, she was going to have me on the float and have a slogan, "Tan your buns at Studio 62." So, and then actually the next day I had a speech deal, and I went to it, and I came back the next week at school, and everybody knew the story. So I used to give the announcements in high school, and I was friends with the principal, and so I used to give the announcements. Well, the day I was gone at the speech deal, the principal had found out about it, and he told the whole school the whole story. So whenever I got back, everybody knew about it. So.
Dude,
Good man.
Principal, man.
goodness. Okay,
Yeah.
Ryan, you've got a lot to live up to at this point. We got naked guys wearing buttless chaps, football players in high school. We got guys getting switched at birth. Like, I mean,
I ain't got nothing.
two truths and a lie.
Two
Come on.
truths
Hit
and
it.
a lie. All right,
Let's
here
go.
we go.
All right.
I threw a football with Troy Aikman. No, not Troy Aikman. John Elway.
I feel like
All right. I think that one's true. So,
Man. So threw a ball with Troy Aikman.
John Elway,
Wait, who?
just start
now,
over.
now
You
he
have
tries to
start
make it
over
a
now.
lie.
All right.
Threw a ball with John Elway. Was state champion in debate club in Iowa, and was starred in a Argentina rock stars music video.
Argentina rock stars? What is that, a group or is that a
No, it's like
Guy from Argentina.
just some guy in Argentina as a rock star, and I was in his music video.
So you recovered from the William Horn incident in Iowa to become
A master debater.
a master debater.
Master debater. I can debate.
I
Kyle knows
think
this.
that's your lie.
The debate.
The debate.
I think that's a lie too. Debate.
I'll go with the third one as a lie.
The Argentina music video.
Yeah.
The debate is a lie.
Okay.
So
Was it not the right state?
No,
Oh,
I just
my
I-
bad,
Let
bro.
me hang it on
I
camera.
thought you were going for
I never
him.
did debate. I was like, man, I got to come up with a lie. So that's what I came up with. But no, I went to the Pro Bowl in 1999 and was at the Iolani Hotel and was out in the pool, and I got to throw a football with John Elway. Ended up slipping and scraping my knees. And then when I was 6 years old, my parents had me do some acting. I was in a poison control commercial. And then from there, I went and did a music video for a guy named Miguel Mateos. He's a rock star out in Argentina, and the song's called "Si tu veremos alas," and you can actually get it on YouTube. But
Miguel Mateos had already. Now, go ahead and say the next part.
"Si tu veremos alas" is the song.
What part are you in?
I'm the boy who kind of plays him.
Miguel. Okay, here we go.
Who kind of plays him as a kid flying a plane.
Oh my gosh, this has 2 million views on YouTube.
Yeah, it's 2 million views because I keep showing everybody it. So
Let's see what it comes up to after
Well,
this.
I can't click on it because then this will be brought
Oh,
down
okay.
because somebody has the rights to this music, and that person is not me. But on our break, I'm leaving this up
Yes.
because
Okay.
maybe for lunch we gotta. And you're in this music
I'm in it.
video.
I'm 6
Do you
years
still
old.
remember the moves? Can you reenact it
I
for
didn't
us?
have it. You see my face as I'm going by, flying this airplane. What I remember about it the most was the director hated me because I could not take direction very well.
Oh.
And he was like, "Hey, if you can just take
Story
direction,
checks out.
if you can just do this, I'll let you throw this plane off the roof. After we're done with everything." Yeah, let's just say he hated me so much that plane did not get thrown off the roof.
Oh,
he wouldn't
man.
throw me. But here's the
Goodness
thing too. I was like, I
gracious.
asked my parents. I was like, how much you gonna get paid for that? Because all I remember was getting an In-N-Out burger and a chocolate shake.
Yeah,
So,
that's
but
child exploitation is what
nah.
happened.
But yeah, so I was in a music video. I mean,
Okay.
I didn't have to get naked anywhere. I wasn't, switched at birth. But
Yeah, my goodness gracious. That
Yeah.
that should come up in Sunday school at some point, Zach.
I
Okay.
wasn't in a Michael Jackson music video. Let's just say that.
And, that best way in the world to transition to the Bible. So, guys, we're going to go ahead and get into Genesis 33. We're going to be covering Genesis 33 and 34. Yes, somehow, in a miraculous way, we are going to do both. Ryan, kick us off. Let's do the first 4 verses. We're going to have this this meeting between Jacob and Esau.
And Jacob lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, Esau was coming, and 400 men with him. So he divided the children among Leah and Rachel and the 2 female servants. And he put the servants with their children in front, then Leah with her children, and then Rachel and Joseph last of all. He himself went on before them, bowing himself to the ground 7 times until he came near to his brother. But Esau ran to meet him and embraced him, fell on his neck and kissed him, and they wept.
I mean, this is high drama. I mean, this is those first 3 verses. This is you hear the soldiers. You hear, whatever they're wearing for armor. You can hear their swords clanking or whatever their weaponry was. You can see them coming. You can see the dust approaching. And you're thinking, this is it. And the scene is so reminiscent of the prodigal son, like that we see in Luke 15, and partially because the father ran to the son. And you read that in a modern context, you're like, oh yeah, he was happy to see his son and he ran there. I've seen that enough in movies. No. Men didn't run at this time. Like, you didn't do that. It was an undignified thing to do, was to run. And, the prodigal son was obviously, it was a made up story, but this is, thousands of years before Jesus, tells the story of the prodigal son. And this is Esau running to his brother. And again, we see from earlier parts of Genesis that Esau was furious and had reason to be furious with the schemer, with the heel grabber, right? And it just didn't happen. I mean, in this moment, it's just, there's so much emotion there wrapped up in just these 4 verses.
I think it kind of reminds me of when we talk about Exodus and we talk about Pharaoh and how God hardened Pharaoh's heart, just how God worked on Esau's heart. Because Esau has been manipulated and everything through Jacob. Jacob has every right to fear. Esau was going to want to have some retribution. But the fact that God has worked on Esau's heart, that when he saw his brother and fell on his neck and kissed him and they wept. It's just such a good picture of brotherly love and the reconciliation that we can have through God, through Christ.
Ryan, you have a brother. Zach, you have a brother?
Mm-hmm. I have 2.
Russ, you have a brother?
Yes.
Okay, I'm the only one at this table that does not have a brother. I very much, my sister and I basically didn't have a relationship. We're less than 2 years separated, but from the age of about 5 on, she didn't want anything to do with me. I guess I didn't really want anything to do with her. And so, I never really had that, close-knit familial love with, a sibling. And I certainly never had a brother. But when I see, James and Eli, I get so excited for them and scared for them, because it's I get to see that sibling rivalry, but also that love. And I've seen, I think I told y'all about this, and it made me kind of, tear up at the time. But, here we are getting some shots for both of our boys. And James, I think, is 3 and Eli's 1. And James gets his first because he wanted to show, how brave you could be. And of course, he's in pain and he's crying and he's in my lap. And then he sees the nurse giving a shot to Eli when he's 1 year old. And Eli starts screaming, crying. James flips out. He's trying to get out of my arms to get at the nurse. And he is screaming, "Stop hurting my brother!" This blood-curdling scream. And I just get overwhelmed with emotion because I don't understand that, because I never had a brother. And so to read something like this as a guy that always wanted a brother, but then the drama here, I know I keep using that same word, but it's just Jacob is scared literally to the point of death. And Esau, something has changed in him. We'll get to verse 10 in a second, where we see that Jacob's look, your face is different, even Esau. Everything's so different here. But I'm wondering for you guys, try to explain it to me as a guy without a brother. What is that connection like? Because, then I know guys that are twins, and, these dudes are literally feeling the same injuries. I know these buddies that are twins, one lives in Canada, one lives in Kansas. And one of them hurt his hamstring, and the other brother, without even knowing, his legs tightened up or whatever. It's this weird connection that brothers have that I've just never experienced. What's it like for you guys?
Well, my brother is 11 years younger than me, so it's a little different. I was almost in a caring capacity with him, and so I spent a lot of time taking care of my brother, and my sister is 14 years younger than I am. But now as they're older, what I can say about it is it's a really cool relationship, just because, you 3, or at least me and my brother, and I would include my sister, obviously, understand the dynamics of your family and your parents, and you can kind of appreciate all that. And that, in the future when things change, that these 3 will understand what it was like to grow up in that house with those stories and all the other things that are familiar. So certainly, the same culture, the same raising, all that kind of stuff. So I think it creates a really special, unique bond. But for me, it's probably a little different because they're so much younger.
Yeah.
I kind of have a tumultuous relationship with my brothers. I'm sure they probably don't mind me sharing this. One of them was an addict. Put our family through some really hard times, but he's dealing with hard times himself. And we had to create boundaries, had to work through things. But like just a couple weeks ago, we celebrated him being 1 year clean.
Amen. Let's go.
And it was like, and I was talking to him about it, and there's some things that he's trying to make amends for with a lot of things. And I just told him, I was like, man, like if you can do that, that's great. But like all I'm happy about is having my brother back. I was like, there's a couple times he should have died. And I flat out told him, I gave him a Bible and I told him this. I was like, God's not finished with you. You should be dead with the drugs you were using, and you're not, because God has a plan. And like God has worked faithfully through him. And he still struggles with certain things and aspects in life, but when it comes to wanting that drug, he doesn't really want it. So which is great. And then another brother, he deals with alcoholism, and he's been about 6 months sober. And it was tough. These guys are younger than me. They're like 6 to 8 years age difference, and so being the oldest, kind of like what you did, I was the one that had to take care of them all the time. So to me, they were always a burden. They were never really my brothers. They were just burdens. And now it's like they're my brothers. Like my brother, I play golf with one, and the other one, we just kind of hang out and have good conversation. But you talking about your sons kind of brought up my sons. My sons are 7 years difference. Mm-hmm. And I always remember, like, if Hank gets hurt, Will will break down. Yeah. Like Will break down and get worried about him and stuff like that. And it's just the heart that you have for your brothers. And so like that was a hard thing for me, because I kind of felt like I was in your shoes. My brothers were always burdens to me. So I feel like when they were in the thick of it, like I had to be strong, but I also learned how to be graceful and have like unconditional love that God would have. And it took me a while to learn that. But when it came to it, it's just like I was telling somebody earlier, like I wouldn't give up anything right now, with what I have. I would give up what I had before going through that hard times. Life may have been good, but I wouldn't give up what they have right now. Like I love the path my brothers are going down, and I just want to be there for them and be the brother that I can be.
What about you, Russ?
My brother was a big piece of trash. I'm just kidding, James. No, he's a good dude. He's
not
actually
here to
a
defend
pastor
himself.
at what is it, Rock Crusher Church of God there in what is it, Crystal River, Florida. And he was an awesome big brother. We were 2.5 years apart. My real dad had left whenever I was young. My brother took a lot of those roles for a while, as well as my grandfather, and then my stepdad picked that up. And then, praise the Lord, my real father also just became an incredible man of God. And so to be able to be raised by all these men, the Eldridge book, Fathered by God, is one of those books that I actually sent to my brother and said, man, you may be the only person that gets this book like I get this book. And so that aspect was really good. But me and my brother also being so close and being in school and competitive, things like that, we fist fought almost, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say every day of our life. I mean, while we were living in the same house, especially in those older years, we fought daily. And sometimes they were playful. A lot of times they started out playful. A lot of times they didn't end playful. My dad, he kind of had a rule about, hey, if somebody ends up bloody, I get in trouble from your mom. So keep the face shots to a limit. And beyond that, like you can go at each other. So we did that all the way through high school until, and then he moved off. And I realized that not only did I miss my punching bag, but like my best friend. And so that was a weird relationship to see that kind of change and see that grow to where we would fight with each other more than anybody else. But he's also the person that probably pushed me for my first kiss. He probably pushed me to get in my first fight. I actually remember that. The first fight I got into was because of the first kiss that he made me have, and so
why'd you kiss that guy?
No. It was actually my girlfriend, guy Leighton Combs. I think he kissed my girlfriend. My brother found out, and and made me go behind the buses and have a fight with him. So, yeah, thanks, James. But no, it was very much like he was really instrumental, and we did fight all the time. But it was kind of like this understood deal that we would fight with each other, but we also knew I got into a lot of fights with him, or, and things like that. Like it was that kind of closeness that we were at each other's throats, but you better not mess with, him or me, or we both cared for each other that much that if it was really on the line, we'd be there for each other.
That's what it sounds like with older brothers is it's like, hey, if someone starts picking on them, it's like, hey, no. You don't get to pick on him. That's my brother. I get to pick on him. And you're going to have to, kind of deal with me. And like, I see a little bit of that because, James is getting excited that Eli is going to be at his school next year. But I'm like trying to, bring out the warrior in James and the sheepdog in James. Like, hey, dad doesn't go to your school, right? No. Dad doesn't work at your school, right? No. Who's going to protect your brother, during the day or something like that? And he's like, me, I get to protect my brother. And it's like, you're right. Yep. While your brother is there, you can protect your brother. And then again, when they fight and bicker and all that, sometimes when I pull James aside, it's like, hey, how are you going to protect your brother if you're doing this to him? And it's like, yeah. And I'm trying to call him up into an identity as opposed to just marking a behavior like he's a dog and like, Mark, I don't like that. That's bad. Like, so, anyway, I appreciate that. That was like helpful for me, like getting to kind of see brothers and stuff like that.
One of the things before we move on, like I wanted to talk about Jacob because we just talked about Esau and God making a change in his heart. I just kind of noticed the change that God made in Jacob's heart because you just pointed out the fact that he went before his family. So he showed bravery in going before his family, but then also said he kneeled and bowed 7 times.
Number of perfection. Yeah.
Number of perfection, but also what does that show? It shows humility.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Jacob humbled himself before his brother. And like how many times can we show that humility, towards somebody else and we don't, and so that just really made me think like God worked on both of these guys' hearts.
That's right.
So
let's keep this narrative going. What we're going to do to finish up 33 is we're just going to switch off each paragraph because I think we're all reading ESV or whatever. We'll go counterclockwise. So I'll pick up in verse 5 and then Rust, you'll start in verse 12 and then, you guys get it. And when Esau lifted up his eyes and saw the women and children, he said, "Who are these with you?" Jacob said, "The children whom God has graciously given your servant." Then the servants drew near, they and their children, and bowed down. Leah likewise and her children drew near and bowed down. And last Joseph and Rachel drew near, and they bowed down. Esau said, "What do you mean by all this company that I met?" Jacob answered, "To find favor in the sight of my Lord." But Esau said, "I have enough, my brother. Keep what you have for yourself." Jacob said, "No, please. If I have found favor in your sight, then accept my present from my hand, for I have seen your face, which is like seeing the face of God, and you have accepted me. Please accept my blessing that is brought to you, because God has dealt graciously with me, and because I have enough." Thus he urged him, and he took it.
All right. Where do you want me to read through? Because I'm not seeing your chapter.
Yeah, 12 through 14.
Then Esau said, "Let us be on our way. I'll accompany you." But Jacob said to him, "My Lord knows that the children are tender and that I must care for the ewes and the cows that are nursing their young. If they are driven hard just one day, all the animals will die. So let my Lord go on ahead of his servant while I move along slowly at the pace of the flocks and the herds before me and at the pace of the children until I come to my Lord in Seir."
And then, Zach, pick up.
So Esau said, "Let me leave with you some of the people who are with me." But he said, "What need is there? Let me find favor in the sight of the Lord." So Esau returned that day on his way to go to Seir. But Jacob journeyed to Succoth and built himself a house and made booths for his livestock. Therefore the name of the place is called Succoth.
And Jacob came safely to the city of Shechem, which is in the land of Canaan, and on his way to Paddan Aram, and he camped before the city. And from the sons of Hamor, Shechem's father, he bought for 100 pieces of money a piece of land on which he had pitched his tent. There he erected an altar and called it El Elohi Israel.
Pretty good. The one thing I wanted to kind of, double click on, if you will, was back on verse 10, where Jacob's talking to Esau, and he's like, "For I have seen your face." And this goes back to your point, Ryan, of God changed Esau's heart. Okay, we don't see any indication from the text that Esau, read How to Win Friends and Influence People, and then all of a sudden he's like, "Well, I shouldn't hold this grudge, and it'd be a lot better for all these people if we just kind of let this go." It's like, no, God changed his heart. I will say for me, I don't want to go too far into this because we need to hit Genesis 34 as well. There are some people in everyone's life, certainly in my life, where all you want is for them to be different. You want them to be completely changed. You want them to approach life differently. You want them to approach you differently, the people around, the two of you that they love, no matter what the circumstance is. We want people to be different. And it's so hard for people like me, very, very type A, very driven, and I have high expectations for the people around me. We were talking about this joke. We had a bunch of guys on the back porch when Matt Chandler was in town. He started his sabbatical by coming up here and staying with me at my house and, training in some jiu-jitsu. And, we're on the back porch and I'm making some Oryx burgers. And I make some comment to some guy, and Russell just kind of pokes his head into the conversation and he goes, hey, you don't have to do what Kyle tells you to do, right? And everyone kind of laughed because the point was I was like, I will tell people, like, look, you have to do this. If you're going to be in my presence, you have to be able to do 10 pull-ups. Or, like, I'll just say something like that. And I'm kidding but not kidding at the same time. It's because I want people to be better. But I kind of came to this realization years ago, like, I kept caring too much. I kept caring more than the other person cared, right? So, they wanted to be in shape, but I really wanted them to be in shape. And then whenever they wouldn't do the things necessary to be in shape, it would like crush me, right? Same thing, like I would want someone's marriage to work out, and I'd be the only one in their life advocating, don't get divorced, like just, you can fight it out, like let me fight with you, let me shoulder some of this burden. And I just cared more than they did. And so the same thing is true with, brotherly love all the way up into salvation, to where it's like, look, you can want this for somebody. Because I've talked about people in my life that are not believers that I'm just like absolutely crushed by. Whenever, Joby's church, they talk about that one more. Why do they keep building these new buildings and why they keep expanding their churches? Because they don't want that one more to ever not have a place to sit and a place to belong, a place to be, whatever. There's this big wall at the San Pablo campus at the Church 1122 down there. It's your one more wall. And you write your name of that one more, that person that just you're super burdened for. And the level of your burden doesn't equal, their actual transition. It's like God at some point has to transition their heart from bitter to believer, or from, skeptic to, believer, or from completely irredeemable to redeemed, or however you want to couch it. And so that's the one thing when I read that, it just, for me, it really stuck out, because it's like, okay, all right. Esau didn't change his mind. God changed his heart. Very different.
How has that changed for you over time? I mean, do you still feel like you're more invested in those around you, or have you kind of pulled back a little bit?
So what I would say is I invest more in the people that mean it, right? And so I've used this example before, but we have new viewers every week, and I'm just so unbelievably thankful for y'all. And so, if I'm repeating some stories, it's for benefit. There was a guy that came up to me at Fight Club. It was after the workout. Workout was especially brutal, or not especially brutal. It was just a workout, which is brutal. It's hard. It's hard to do. And he kind of meandered his way up to me after practice, and I could see it all over his face. And he goes, "Hey, Kyle, can you?" And I go, "No." He's like, "What?" I'm like, "No." He's like, "I didn't even say anything." I was like, "You were about to ask me to help you get in shape, weren't you?" "Well, yeah." "You were going to ask me to help you train. You were going to ask me if you could come work out at my gym. You were going to ask me if I could write out some workouts for you. You're going to ask me to do that for you, right?" "No, not interested." I said, "Go, shoe for 6 months. Use that supercomputer in your pocket and, join, a fitness app. Go get Mountain Tough, or go get some YouTube videos and work out. Go figure out some nutrition, read some books. Come back to me in 6 months. I will help you sharpen the sword. I will not help you find it." And so that's kind of what I do now, to where it's like I do not give people the time of day if they're not going to give themselves the time of day. Like, I will not care instead of you, right? I will not care for you in the place of you. And so whereas before it was like, no, I'm just going to care. And if they show, even 1%, I'll try to somehow become the other 99%. It's like, absolutely not. Go figure it out and go be an adult.
I mean, we kind of had that conversation that one time when I was making pizza for you.
Oh gosh, and it was good.
It was good
boy,
pizza.
It was good.
But no, he was just like, we were just sitting there, and I think I was just like sitting in front of the oven just doing these pizzas up, and he's like, "Bro, like you're not looking very good." I think I was like, 260 pounds?
You were at your biggest.
I was at my biggest. Like, all my clothes were fitting way tight and everything. And he'd always he'd needle me a little bit. He's like, "I'm not buying any more 2XL shirts anymore." I was like, I could lose 40 pounds. I still wear 2XL shirts.
Right.
It's just the way my body's shaped, But no, finally I had to get into it on my own. And you made fun of me for eating salads, but I ate salads with meat because I just knew I had to do what I had to do to lose the weight. And so I've been on a trajectory since November of last year where I was probably sitting around 260, 262. Now I'm down to 222, 224. I fluctuate between there, but I have a goal weight of 200, and I'm really close to it. my work clothes don't fit on me very well. These clothes fit better. And it's just like, you were there along the way, but I didn't need you to make a workout plan for me. But if I did say, hey man, look what I just did calorie wise, I'll send it over to you every once in a while. And you'd be like, yeah, man, keep it up. Like, you were always there to kind of push me. But like, you even said, man, I see you. You know, I remember that one time when I was like, I was probably about 25 pounds down, and you're like, dude, I see you, you know? And I was like, that's when I was like, man.
Yeah. And part of it's like, okay, great. Now make it a lifestyle. Yeah. So it's like anyone can go to workout class for a week. Oh, you went to Orange Theory?
Yeah.
You check the box 10 times? Okay, now do that for the remainder of your life.
Yeah.
Figure out a way to be active for the remainder of your life. And so, again, I always use physical because, you know, everyone kind of understands the internal angst of trying to roll yourself out of bed to go work out when you don't want to. But the same thing on the spiritual disciplines or the relational disciplines. Mm-hmm. Imagine waking up and telling your spouse, I am not motivated to love you as Christ loved the church today. I'm just not motivated. But that's what we do with exercise. Oh, I'm not motivated to exercise today. Oh, I don't, you know, David Goggins' video this morning wasn't as good as yesterday's video. And so I don't think I'm going to work out today, right? Because you're looking for some external locus of control to control your brain so that you can do the thing that you know you need to do that you just lack the current level of discipline in order to accomplish. Yep. And so, yeah, I mean, Zach, getting back to your point, it's just, imagine somebody that is not spiritually adept, but they keep saying they want to be. And part of it is I've, believe it or not, gotten even bolder with people when they're like, man, I'm really struggling with porn. I'm really struggling. I was like, are you? You're struggling with getting rid of porn? Because you know what it takes to stop looking at porn? Struggling. If you were struggling, you'd be further along in this process now, wouldn't you?
Yep.
Like, I don't play with people anymore. Oh, I'm struggling with my weight. Oh, I'm struggling with being a good example for my kids and all. It's like, no, brother, you're not. Enough with the struggle language. Say something else. Like, say something that's even mildly convincing, because struggle is the last thing that you're doing.
But if you're not struggling, you need to struggle. Like,
that's the point.
Yeah. It's like, all right, now I know that this is a problem. I've got to take care of it. I've got to rely on God, and I've got to rely on what He's put in front of me to go and do what I need to do. So whether that's pornography or weight or your spiritual life or your marriage, like, we know as believers what is right, and we struggle with the thoughts that we have in our heads on whether it's our anxieties or whether we just want to put in the work or not. We got to put in the work.
That's absolutely it. And so, guys, let's go ahead and get into Genesis 34. We're going to keep this narrative of this family going, and we'll just kind of switch off. We'll go counterclockwise again. I'll kick us off, and we're just going to read all the way through this entire narrative of Genesis 34. So here we go in the ESV, and you're still reading the NIV?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you'll be 5 through 7. All right. Now Dinah, the daughter of Leah, whom she had borne to Jacob, went out to see the women of the land. And when Shechem, the son of Hamor the Hivite, the prince of the land, saw her, he seized her and lay with her and humiliated her. And his soul was drawn to Dinah, the daughter of Jacob. He loved the young woman and spoke tenderly to her. So Shechem spoke to his father Hamor, saying, get me this girl for my wife.
When Jacob heard that his daughter Dinah had been defiled, his sons were in the fields with his livestock. So he did nothing about it until they came home. Then Shechem's father, Hamor, went to talk to Jacob. Meanwhile, Jacob's sons had come from the fields. As soon as they heard what had happened, they were shocked and furious because Shechem had done an outrageous thing in Israel by sleeping with Jacob's daughter, a thing that should not be done.
But Hamor spoke with them, saying, the soul of my son Shechem longs for your daughter. Please give her to him to be his wife. Make marriages with us. Give your daughters to us, and take our daughters for yourselves. You shall dwell with us, and the land shall be open to you. Dwell and trade in it, and get property in it. Shechem also said to her father and to her brothers, let me find favor in your eyes, and whatever you say to me I will give. Ask me for as great a bride price and gift as you will, and I will give whatever you say to me. Only give me the young woman to be my wife.
The sons of Jacob answered Shechem and his father Hamor deceitfully, because they had defiled their sister Dinah. They said to them, we cannot do these things, to give our sister to the one who is uncircumcised, for that would be a disgrace to us. Only on this condition will we agree with you, that you will become as we are, by every male among you being circumcised. Then we will give our daughters to you, and we will take your daughters to ourselves, and we will dwell with you and become one people. But if you will not listen to us and be circumcised, then we will take our daughter, and we will be gone.
Their words pleased Hamor and Hamor's son Shechem, and the young man did not delay to do the thing, because he delighted in Jacob's daughter. Now he was the most honored of all his father's house. So Hamor and his son Shechem came to the gate of their city and spoke to the men of their city, saying, These men are at peace with us. Let them dwell in the land and trade in it. For behold, the land is large enough for them. Let us take their daughters as wives, and let us give them our daughters. Only on this condition will the men agree to dwell with us to become one people, when every male among us is circumcised as they are circumcised. Will not their livestock, their property, and all their beasts be ours? Only let us agree with them, and they will dwell with us. And all who went out of the gate of his city listened to Hamor and his son Shechem, and every male was circumcised, all who went out of the gate of his city.
3 days later, while all of them were still in pain, two of Jacob's sons, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, took their swords and attacked the unsuspecting city, killing every male. They put Hamor and his son Shechem to the sword, and took Dinah and Shechem's house and left. The sons of Jacob came upon the dead bodies and looted the city where their sister had been defiled. They seized their flocks and herds and donkeys and everything else of theirs in the city and out in the fields. They carried off all their wealth and all their women and children, taking as plunder everything in the houses.
30.
Yeah,
Yes.
go ahead and finish it out.
Then Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, You have brought trouble on me by making me stink to the inhabitants of the land, the Canaanites and the Perizzites. My numbers are few, and if they gather themselves against me and attack me, I shall be destroyed, both I and my household. But they said, Should he treat our sister like a prostitute?
So it's obviously a very interesting story. This kind of changes the family of Jacob. It's going to change their reputation moving forward, because they were just kind of like this, kind of this easygoing people. And then this changes absolutely everything. Obviously, Jacob is kind of mortified by this at the end. But in our time that we have left here, as we wrap up the discussion of Genesis 33 and 34, I thought there was actually a very interesting philosophical thing that came up with these last two verses. So Zach, could you actually reread 30 and 31?
Then Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, You have brought trouble on me by making me stink to the inhabitants of the land, the Canaanites and the Perizzites. My numbers are few, and if they gather themselves against me and attack me, I shall be destroyed, both I and my household.
Pause. So that's verse 30. That's Jacob. He's like, look, I'm thinking about prosperity here. I'm thinking about safety. I'm thinking about the future of our progeny. Now, verse 31.
But they said, Should he treat our sister like a prostitute?
This is prosperity versus justice. This is not me coming, because obviously if you listen to my show, you obviously understand that my justice spin is not this like faux social justice nonsense, but it's like actual justice. Like, hey, a baby in the womb cannot defend itself, so we outside the womb need to defend that baby that doesn't have a vote in the matter, right? And so I thought this brought up something very, very philosophical, to where it's like Jacob is thinking like, hey, like this is wrong. Like this is an eye for an eye. Like this isn't. It's. What you did was so far beyond the pale of what would be justified. And again, we don't have the law at this point. Like we don't have any of those things I would have talked about, just law, like, like punishment for like offense, those types of things. But then the brothers do kind of the masterful thing that I try to teach people to do, which is like, hey, ask questions, right? The person asking the questions is actually the one in power, not the one answering them. And so Jacob's, he's got to be exasperated. He's got to be like, what did y'all do? Like, this is crazy. And then they just go, should he treat our sister like a prostitute? Your daughter? Like, and so that was one of those things where I was like, ooh, because it doesn't really, like, that's where this story ends. Like, we don't get into, chapter 35 of Genesis, and we get, and then they regretted it later, and then, Jacob kind of came to their side. Like, that's just it. The narrative's over.
I think that they misused justice in this, because though the act went down, he wanted to marry her. And so if you look back at those times, if like sex were to happen outside the marriage, it was considered rape. And I'm pretty sure like she was drunk at a party or something like that, and this dude raped her. But he also wanted to make her his wife. And at this time, they could have given, Jacob could have given his daughter over for a third of something or some land or something like that, and made them a part of this. But why they couldn't is because they were not circumcised. So it's considered unclean to do that. So basically justice was happening in the fact that now she was going to be a wife to Shechem, and now everybody was going to be circumcised, so they're going to be a part of the covenant. Well, basically what Simeon and Levi did was they basically used God's covenant as revenge against the city of Shechem. That's how I looked at it.
So I would say, because again, I think people might pile on you there for a second, because it seemed like you were very dismissive of rape. Because for all intents and purposes,
not dismissive of
which is
rape, yeah.
I knew that's not that was certainly not the point that you were making. I think some people might think how you worded that is that what you're saying. It's clearly not what you're saying. But at this point, you have brothers. We just talked about brotherly love earlier. Think about how much different it is for older brothers for a younger sibling that's a female. And then you have a man that forcibly penetrates and sexually violates your little sister. And then, again, I'm not saying that, and then we killed every man in the area. We're not saying that that is a justified thing. I've gone on record saying that rapists should be castrated and killed, especially child rapists, like, all those types of things. This is certainly an overboard reaction. But it's almost like their hearts were in the right place, but their calibration knob was completely busted.
Their hearts were in the wrong place, because what they did is they're the ones that came up with, well, if you want my sister to be your wife,
they were scheming from the beginning.
They were scheming. Rather than, they should have just taken out their knives and killed him. That would have been better than to say, hey, we're going to go ahead and honor this deal. We're going to have you make my sister an honest woman now. She's going to become
like shotgun
your wife.
wedding type thing.
Yeah. And that's where they're wrong. That's where they didn't show true justice. And now they're trying to answer that question. Should they treat our daughter or our sister as a prostitute? Well, you just treated God's covenant as a revenge tool. And so you can't have one eye for an eye. It's just like what happened with Dina was despicable and disgusting, but they were trying to make it right, and Jacob made it right, and they were trying to do the right thing, and then these guys, through their anger, did something else that was totally wrong.
Yeah, and I'm just reading through some of these things, but some things that pop out. They're saying that the brothers basically saw this as them proposing marriage and a ploy to slowly take over Israel and their possessions and their wealth over time. So there's definitely some ulterior motives from this commentary. And the second thing is that it was a gross injustice in the way that it was handled. And unfortunately, from a political environment and a leadership standpoint, it really put Jacob back significantly. So, while I think there was certainly some things that needed to happen, that wasn't his intention, and it had ramifications down the line. When he framed the question, like you talked about, I didn't read that so much as him staying in control of a narrative. I appreciate what you're saying, but more as just a response as an excuse. He's probably when Jacob's saying, you've just ruined the perception of our entire community in front of everybody.
Well, they also overruled their father, because their father gave consent to the marriage. And so, if we look back at this time, a woman didn't marry for love. Mm-hmm. The father gave consent and was given a dowry for the daughter. So he gave his consent for her to be married, and the brothers went back on that consent. Whether it's they distrusted Shechem, which kind of goes to back, maybe they saw it from their father, because their father didn't trust God through many things. And so maybe they didn't trust God through this, but God in the end works this out for their good, because Shechem is a part of the promised land. And so it was a land they were going to inherit anyways.
Right. And there doesn't seem to be a redeemable man in this story. When you look through, it's like, okay, Jacob should have protected his daughter. You have this, you have this guy that raped her. You have the two brothers that, take that as an excuse to scheme and then murder a bunch of people in cold blood. Not, the person that actually did the deed, that did the raping, but to murder all these other people. And it's just like, goodness gracious. But that's the Old Testament. Go ahead, Russ.
This is what happens whenever you don't take care of things. Like I've said, I think whenever you read the story of Jacob, you see someone who is passive in many things. I know whenever we go through and we read about David, there are many times you read the story of David and you think, man, how could such a godly man be so passive about these things, reject his leadership role, not come into the decisions that he should be making faster? And here we see Jacob kind of doing that. And let's not forget, let's go back a few verses and let's realize these kids weren't stupid. And whenever they went into this land, what did they just experience? Jacob listed his possessions out in a very real, visual way when he went to go see Esau. And you know what he did? He basically took the children of the different maidservants and he put them out in front. Mm-hmm. And then he took the children of Leah and he put them in front. And then he took Rachel and her children and put them back with him. And so they have already very visually been told where they stand with their father. And you're talking about, so these two brothers were her actual real brothers. So you think of a family that's already divided. They have this, she's the only sister. they have this animosity that's already built up towards their dad about, man, he doesn't care for us as much, as Joseph. And they have this animosity, and then they see that their sister gets raped. He does nothing. He's trying to make a deal with them, and they carry this animosity that he has not dealt with. He never came back to them and was like, hey, sorry about leading you guys out and putting y'all out in front as a shield in case he started killing, and maybe he would get tired of killing by the time he got to me. But that's where you ranked, and they see their sister being ranked here as not very important, and they take it on themselves.
But I disagree with that because we have to look at the context of this time and era. Mm-hmm. They might see it that way, but what it happens is she has now been defiled. So she can never marry. Like, nobody's going to want her. Like, what happened? Like, even when we go back to Jesus' time, if there is a woman who was raped or was married beforehand, like, she wasn't a woman that was really people wanted to be with. Mm-hmm. And so the best thing for her at this time is to, this might sound sick in our society now, was to be with the guy who defiled her, because now she is redeemed because she's married to the person who had sex with her the first time, And so that's where where Jacob basically was like, all right, I can redeem my daughter. She can marry this guy, after she's been deflowered. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And so he can bring some sort of that's considered justice to her. Like, in a weird, sick sense, it's considered justice. Yep. And so that's where it's like, that's where the brothers were angry about it, and I get it, and I would be just as angry. But he did the best thing for his daughter that he could.
I'm not saying he didn't, because a lot of times you'd have that situation where the fathers would demand that the person marry them, and that would be the conflict. What I'm saying is the brothers' overreaction, I believe, stems from this long tradition of being told that they are second-rate children.
And it could be because we're going to see that go on throughout the rest of this time of Jacob and his sons, and God's going to favor, one son over another. Jacob's going to favor one son over another. But when it just comes down to it, like, as sad as this story is, like you said, like, fathers are saying, no, you need to marry my daughter because you did this. And most of the guys are like, no. But Shechem wanted to marry her. Right. And Shechem wanted to make her a part of the house, and they had a covenant and everything. And these brothers used that covenant to get their revenge. Right. And it's like Kyle said, like, there's no good person out of this whole thing.
And later on, we see Genesis 49, whenever Jacob is giving his different descriptions of the 12 tribes and what they will be. Yep. He brings this up specifically towards Levi, who he basically says, you'll be scattered among the people. I think he talks about his anger, not being able to be controlled, and that he disgraced them, and he scatters among the people. Obviously, the Levites ended up being the priestly that didn't have a necessarily place in the land, but he does carry this out. So, like, to your point, like, this, we do see this again be a big part of their description later on. And Reuben, the same thing happens with something that happens with him where he brings it up later.
Very good. I appreciate that back and forth. But guys, that's where we're going to leave our description and discussion of Genesis 33 and 34. But come back here next week with 35 and 36 read and ready to go. So 35 and 36 of the book of Genesis. But before we let you go, we are going to do a quick resilience boost. At Undaunted Life, our mission is equipping men to push back darkness with content that forges spiritual, mental, and physical resilience. Get it? Forging table. Get it? But we have a forging table starter set through Crossway. So guys, if you want to get all those amazing books at a discount, check out the show notes. You can get that description. The Logos Bible software that some of us reference even while we're doing this live, the best and most powerful Bible software on planet Earth. Don't use it at full price, use it at a discount. You can check out the link in our show notes. And then also, we are a donation-based ministry. So if you want to know how we're able to pull off things like the forging table, all the stuff that we do with Undaunted Life, it's because we have guys just like you that believe in the mission of equipping men to push back darkness, and we need you to partner with us. So Undaunted.Life/donate, or go to the link in the show notes. Thank you for listening to this podcast. Wherever you're listening to this, please subscribe, rate, and leave us a positive 5-star review. If you want me to come speak live at your event or on your podcast, just shoot me an email to info@Undaunted.Life. That's info@Undaunted.Life. Follow us on Instagram and like us on Facebook, and check out our website for everything else, including how to donate to keep more content like this coming your way. Just go to www.Undaunted.Life. And as always, we want to thank the band Holy Name for allowing us to use their music for our content. The music on this podcast is their song Perpetua, which is off their self-titled debut album on Face Down Records. The links are in the description. I'm your host, Kyle Thompson. Remember, keep pushing back darkness keep forging spiritual, mental, and physical resilience. Keep seeking the Lion of Judah.